Hi. Hey Google. Pause. Hello. Hi everyone. If you couldn't tell from the song, I wonder what that song could mean. What could it mean? Today, I am going to be giving you book recommendations based on your favorite Stranger Things character. In the past month, I binge watched the entirety of Stranger Things. Yes, the first time I watched Stranger Things was 2022. Is that embarrassing? Yes, it is. But it's okay, because we're here now. Volume 2 just came out like a few days ago. I cried. But there won't be any spoilers in this video, so don't worry. But if you've watched the show, if you haven't watched the show, either way, I'm giving you book recommendations. So let's get into it. Yeah, get into it, yeah.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this.
Just a disclaimer, okay? These are book recommendations for the viewers, not for the characters. So if you're like, that character would not read that book, I'm not saying they would read that book. Some of them may overlap, but this is for the viewers. This is for, if your favorite character is this person, read this book. Not this character would read this book, okay? Thank you. Okay, so first character we have is the iconic, the classic, the main character, the hallmark of the show, Miss 11, aka Jane Hopper. She is an icon of pop culture, if we're being honest, right? The book I chose for Miss 11, Miss Jane Hopper, drumroll, Circe by Madeline Miller. So this book is a Greek mythology retelling of the character Circe. She is the daughter of the Titan Helios, the sun god, and basically she's like a witch, but she doesn't really know it, and she uses her powers to do something bad, and she gets exiled. She gets banished to the island of, I don't know how to pronounce it. What's it called? Ayaya? Okay, there's a lot of like references to other Greek myths in this book, and it's kind of just like about her journey like as a person and as a character. This character has kind of been vilified and demonized like by Greek myth and like the Greek mythology, I guess, community, and so Madeline Miller kind of reworks it and like tells her story. So the reason why I chose this book is because, like 11, Circe is a very complex character who have had kind of tough upbringings and a lot of trauma. Circe is kind of like, she's kind of like the least favorite child. Like her siblings really make like poke fun at her a lot. She doesn't feel very loved like by her family. And of course, like 11 didn't even have a family. Like she grew up in a lab, basically. They've both had very hard upbringing, characters that are often misunderstood. Like we see in the show, like I don't want to spoil too much, but we see in the show that, you know, there's like certain people who think that 11 is the problem, when in reality 11 is trying to help the problem. 11 is the solution to the problem, right? And in this book as well, Circe, you know, uses her powers for a certain way, and people think she's doing it just out of spite or just to be evil, but there's actually reason that, like, why she's doing that. They both have to like come into their powers. Circe doesn't even know she has powers, and neither does 11. I mean, obviously she knows she has powers, but she doesn't know the full, like at first she doesn't know the full length, not length, but she doesn't know like the full capability of her powers, and neither does Circe. And they both have to like come into their own, like both as women and like grow up kind of on their own, but also like as superheroes or like, you know, people with powers. So I thought it was really fitting. People who like 11 would like this book. It is a little bit slow at times, but I personally love this book, and it's like one of my favorite books of all time. So that is 11. Okay, on to the next. So next character, Max Mayfield, aka Mad Max. Literally like one of my favorite characters for sure. And so the book that I would recommend to lovers of Max Mayfield is Little Women. So Little Women is a coming of age story. Like, if you don't know, it's a very popular book, of course, but Little Women is a coming of age story about 4 sisters. It's set in 1860s Massachusetts. It just follows them as they grow up and as they grow to become women. There's a big portrayal and like themes of like sisterhood and like female relationships, which I think kind of aligns with Max's values. We can see, like, especially in season 3, her friendship with Elle, which is like the best thing ever. She kind of acts as like a sister to 11 because, of course, 11 was like kind of mostly hanging out with just the boys, and Max is kind of like her first like girlfriend. She kind of reminds me of Jo, just in that I don't know why. I'm not exactly sure why. Like, there's not really a reason. They're both confident because they don't exactly fit like the ideals of their time. You know, she's kind of tomboyish. It's a book that can be enjoyed by people of like truly all ages. I think I first read it when I was like 10 or something like that. Or I think my mom read it to me, but yeah, it's just, you know, like womanhood, sisterhood, friendships. It's a great story. Okay, next character is another very well-loved character introduced this season, season 4, Eddie Munson. Maybe asking, well, Sydney, what book could you possibly recommend for lovers of Eddie Munson? For lovers of rock and roll? What could it be? I'm so curious. I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to know. Mia, she's waiting to know. My cat, she wants to know. Mia, what is it? What is it, Mia? What book is it? I mean, you could have guessed. Yes, I'm going to recommend Daisy Jones and the Six. It fits the vibe. It does. So if you don't know what this book's about, which you probably do if you've seen any kind of book content on the internet, hey, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid is a book about the late 60s, 70s rock and roll scene. Follows this girl, Daisy. It follows all the characters from this band, but anyways, there's Daisy. She's like the daughter of famous people living in LA. She is like going to clubs, you know, partying it up as you do in the late 60s. And then there's this band, the Six. They're like this rock and roll band, you know. And Daisy's a singer, and then they end up coming together to form Daisy Jones and the Six, this band. And this book is told in like an interview style. It's like, hold on, I'll show you. It's definitely like a good book for, oh my god, there's a character named Eddie. I just realized that. It's very easy to read because of the style of writing, but it's told in like interview style. I've heard that the audiobook is like a really good way to read this book. I haven't listened to it, but because of like the interview style kind of thing, because it's just like character name and then what they say, and then another character and what they say, and it's really like interesting and engaging way to tell a story. But this book is just like late 60s, early 70s lifestyle of just like going on tour, you know, groupies, rock and roll, music, drugs, partying, like it's everything. And I feel like people who like Eddie Munson and like Eddie's like vibe and like character would enjoy this book. Would Eddie read this book that looks like this? No, he wouldn't. Like, this book like had like some like rock and roll man on the cover and was like a little bit more edgy and maybe like a different title, like would he read it? I think he would. I think it's just the way it's marketed. Like, let's be honest. I'm just saying. Don't kill me. I'm just saying. I'm just telling the truth. Like, I'm just speaking my truth. Okay, next character. We've got two more. Who could it be? Okay, another very well-loved character. Another one of my personal favorite characters. Robin Buckley. This recommendation This recommendation is another one of my favorite books of all time. If you like Robin Buckley, I would read Her Body and Other Parties. This is a collection of short stories by Carmen Machado. It is gay. Okay, it is gay. Don't worry, I had to include that. There's definitely a lot of like women loving women like relationships featured in here. This has everything. This book has horror. It has like literary analysis. It has sci-fi. Like it's such a range of genres. This is a book that I feel like Robin would read and appreciate for many reasons, because she's a smart person, and I feel like she would appreciate like the metaphors and like the literary devices of it all. This is very much a book that makes you think, makes you reflect like on the world, society, women's place in the world, women's bodies. Like that's like a big theme in the book, is like women's bodies, and it's just very good. It's just a very good book. I think everyone should read it, honestly. I feel like Robin would enjoy this book, and I feel like Robin enjoyers would also enjoy this book. So here it is. One thing I forgot to mention is definitely check trigger warnings for some of these books. I can just give a few right off the bat. This book does have mentions of rape and sexual assault, and so does this one. And this one has mentions of like, or strong mentions of like drug abuse and like drug addiction and things like that. Those are like the main ones, but definitely like search a list. So on to the last character of this video. Maybe there'll be more parts. Maybe I'll do more characters. But for the last character, for now, we have Nancy Wheeler. Hi, so I was just editing this video and I thought of a recommendation for Nancy that is way better than the recommendation I actually gave. So instead of refilming the whole thing, I'm just gonna give you the recommendation quickly now. The Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson is a young adult mystery, and I think it's literally so perfect for Nancy. It's about this girl who, for her senior capstone project, decides to investigate this like murder suicide case that happened in like her small town a few years ago that like shook the town, because she thinks that the person who they found guilty is actually innocent and that they were wrong. So she decides to investigate it, and it's like this whole book, and it's so good. It's literally a 5-star read, like one of my favorite books of all time. And it's also a trilogy, which is really fun. I read the first 2 books in the series and they've both been 5 stars. They're both amazing, but I think it's just perfect for Nancy because that's literally what Nancy does in season 3 with the journalists when they're like ignoring her and they think she's wrong. She decides to investigate it herself and she's right. But I just thought that whole concept like fit Nancy's vibe so well. So yeah, but this rec that I give to is also good. But this one's kind of better, but it's still watched. For enjoyers of Nancy Wheeler, I recommend The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I think this kind of has some similar themes of like Nancy's character, in that it's about Esther, and it's also like semi-autobiographical of Sylvia Plath, but she wants to become a poet, so we have like the academia factor, but it's like in the 50s, and so there's definitely a lot of like sexism that she has to deal with in her kind of journey to becoming a poet. And that's kind of where the similarities end, because a big topic and focus of this book is mental health and depression. So like big fat trigger warning for like depression and like suicide in this book, just because this book is a modern classic, and it focuses a lot on academia, which I feel like kind of aligns with Nancy's character and Nancy's personality. I think if you like Nancy, you would also like this book. And that is the last character and the last book that I have for today. This is my first video ever. If you like this video, you know, give it a like, subscribe. I have so many ideas for so many book videos. If you're a reader, if you're not a reader, if you want to get into reading, if you hate reading, subscribe. I will convince you to read. I'll convince you to read a book. If you don't like reading, you just haven't read the right book yet. And I have a very good and cool video, if I do say so myself, planned. I'm gonna do a whole guide to like getting into reading. If you don't like reading, if you're not a reader, if you want to get into reading, or if you're kind of a beginner and getting into reading. So definitely stay tuned for that. stay tuned for part 2 of this video, because I definitely do plan on doing one. I love Stranger Things, I love the characters, and I think it's so fun to do this. Comment any other shows or movies or just pieces of media that you think this would be fun for, because I will definitely like look into that. Give this video a like, give my channel a subscription, turn on the notifications, you know, if you want, I wouldn't mind. That is it for me. I'm gonna go watch Stranger Things edits on TikTok and cry. Okay? Bye!
I have turned the soul of this